weekend trip.
Yeah. Yeah, a long weekend. Be cautious of DOI, which can be equally long and equally potent. But what I did, we're working with some friends up at Lawrence Lab, actually at Donner Lab in Berkeley. Oh, it's a marvelous thing. We were working in Berkeley, and we had access to the cyclotron, we had access to the gamma scanners, anything we wanted. The only caution they extended us is, when you leave, be sure you have turned the lights off and locked the door, which is beautiful. So we did all kinds of marvelous things. We made some DOB labeled with bromine 77 and some with bromine 82. And then we had access to a gamma, it's a bed that goes over a gamma detector, and you lie in the bed and you go head first over the detector, and it scans the body from the head to the foot. And you go back and do it again and do it again. And this scanning is put onto an oscilloscope and vertical raster. And so you actually then can get a moving picture of the motion of the radioactivity in the body. You don't know what form, chemically form that radioactivity is in, because all you can see is where the gamma rays are coming from. But it does allow you to see that just if you get an injection, we took it intravenously, a little sloppy injection, you can see a little bit of residual C14 around the, probably bromine 77 around the area of the injection. And we looked with great interest to see how fast it would go to the brain and how long it would stay in the brain, where in the brain it went. And my desire was to see it all the way to the final metabolic end, so I could determine where the bromine went. We never saw ionic bromines. The bromine stayed on the molecule. To our amazement, the material didn't go to the brain; it went to the lung, and the level in the lung built up quite not very high, but the lung is a very potent metabolic organ, probably next to the liver is the most potent metabolic organ, and the amount of accumulation of the radiochemical, I presume still DOB, but I don't know what its chemical status is, built up in the lung, and then after a while it began dropping down, and then it began accumulating in the brain. So I have a strong suspicion that the DOB goes in, it is changed to something else, and that change is occurring probably in the lung, and then that something else by circulation goes into the brain, and there it builds up in the brain. So you're seeing a metabolite. And I did all the chemistry I could. I could not isolate that metabolite and know what it is. So there's an example of how does it work. It works by enzymatic change, and yet you can't argue a mechanism of action of the original compound, because the original compound may not be contributing to the activity in the body.
But it's possible that it is, right?
It's possible that it is.
Okay. How long did it take before the lung, the apparent lung effect started going to the brain?
As I remember, 2 to 3 hours.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Right.
I'll take the next one this side because they've been there longer. After that, I'll alternate. Do you want me to do this?
Yeah, fine.
Sure.
Absolutely. Bless you.
In taking MDA for about 4 years, maybe 12 times in that period, I find that I may have some memory problems in that area. Maybe I'm just blaming MDA on it, but it just seems like there's some correlation between those two things. Is that a possibility?
It is a possibility. I really don't know. MDA was originally...
No, MDMA.
I'm sorry, you said MDMA or MDA?
MDMA.
Oh, I'm sorry. I heard it as MDA.
Might have said that.
I forgot what the question was.
Well, yeah.
I've worked on an MDA history, and what was it?
Seriously, may I ask, are you over 35?
I'm 61.
Okay, well, I think what we've observed is that anybody over 35 starts having gradual but distinct problems with memory. It's part of the aging process. It just happens. I don't think it's got anything to do with MDMA, because I went through about 1.5 to 2 years. This is before we knew that MDMA loses its effect if you use it too often. And I used it once a week for over 1.5 years. In fact, most of what my part of Pical, the first book, was written under the influence of MDMA because it was my writing material. It was an extraordinary material for writing. It just kept things flowing. And my memory is not too hot, but it's certainly no worse than that of my friends who've never tried anything in the way of a drug. So I very much doubt it.
Okay. And I'm even older than Anne, and I have noticed this memory deterioration. And I'm not a chronic user or a regular user of MDMA. In fact, I haven't used it for a decade or more. And yet the memory is slowly deteriorating. I refer to it by the term of JOA, which is juvenile onset Alzheimer's. But there is a tendency, for example, if you have a clue of something, as I did with MDA, and I begin working out the answer of MDA, and I discover I had heard the wrong thing, and I don't remember what the question was. I mean, this is a blatant example of this memory problem. You come to the end of a sentence, you have to reread your sentence, know how you started the sentence. This is bad.
It's okay. I remember a time when it was just not age but stress. I was with a group of people I didn't know, and I was about to introduce my oldest son to those people and realized I didn't remember his name. It took a few seconds, to just relax myself, and it all came back. I mean, stress will cause that also. Yeah.
Yeah, there's many other neurotransmitter systems, and I was wondering if you were going to be doing any experiments with them. For example, there's 14 known currently cholinergic subtypes of receptors. One of them provides pain relief as powerful as morphine. Another one is involved in memory, and especially the cholinergic nervous system is what tends to go out more and more as you get older and older. Ditran, for example, an anticholinergic, has some fascinating long-term therapeutic effects. I was wondering if you're going to be doing any experiments in other neurotransmission systems, particularly the cholinergic system.
The difficulty with a lot of the experiments that are done, neurological agonist experiments, are done in animals, because you like to be able to give the animal something or other and then take out the brain and slice it up and see where the radioactivity went, and this is not very comfortably done with humans. So the difficulty, again, that I add to this is that I can look at these things not as brain enhancers or brain modifiers, but as mind modifiers. And I'm not quite sure the connection between the brain and the mind is something that I find to be I want to get into memes here in a moment. There is no way of getting at the human mind easily as an experiment. And since we can get at the neuroreceptor sites, the various neuroagonist sites, and to tell where they are and where a material goes relative to them, we tend to, like looking under the light for the lost keys. It's easier to see there. That may not be where the key is to be found. But you tend to look where things are more easily seen. I remember a seminar was given at Lawrence Lab about 10 or 15 years ago, and it said the explanation of the action of psychedelics, something by someone in a big government office somewhere back in the East Coast, of something National Institute of Health. And I was very interested because I was curious what action how they explain the activity of these mind chemicals without going into animals. And the talk was totally about animals, brain distribution, where the materials went, what receptors they were associated with. And I went up to the lecturer afterwards and I said, I understood you're going to talk about the mechanism of action of these materials, and all you did was talk about the distribution in the brain, in the animal brain. Well, that's all we can measure. So again, the idea, this is what can be seen, this is what's reported, this is what people tend to assimilate as being the target of the compounds. And the truth is, maybe these materials don't affect neurotransmitters at all. Maybe it's a distribution of this lipophilic thing with that hypo something or other thing that constitutes the structure of the mind and not the brain. What was that experiment on the understanding? Oh yeah, one of the 5 schizophrenics and 5 normals. Remember that I told you about that?
Oh yeah.